guys, I'm back. Anyway, guess what happened last weekend? Have you guessed yet? If you haven't guessed by my VidCon t-shirt, it says so on the back, and my VidCon badge signed by a bunch of people that I liked that I met at VidCon, I'm gonna give you a hint by showing you my VidCon bag. I'm not gonna talk about how great VidCon was because I'm going to be telling you all in person anyway if I ever meet you, so you don't really need to see it on video because it's just going to be a repeat. What I want to talk about is a very specific act that was performed during one of the concerts that kind of put a damper on my VidCon experience, and I think a lot of other people's too. For one of the acts, they had a comedian come out who proceeded to do the, stale comedy routine, which is getting a bit stale itself, so now it's a stale comedy routine, which is getting a little bit too reiterative for my tastes. Anyway, the thing that upset me and many other people in the audience that afternoon was the second part of his act. He came on stage basically doing a very racist portrayal of a Hispanic 15-year-old and began to talk about basically sex. The people who were high school age and under felt awkward because it was about sex. The people college age and older were furious because it was just a blatantly misogynistic act. My issue here was not that he was talking about sex, because lots of comedy routines can do that and be tasteful and hilarious. The real problem with this routine was that the comedian used language that reduced women to their body parts and then shamed them for having them. This kind of language is what contributes to women being seen as lesser than, or somehow less important. And an attitude like that leads to women being physically or emotionally abused because they're perceived as less of a person. I'm under the impression that you can't think something is funny unless you think it's a little bit true, and I feel that if you are willing to perform that comedy routine in front of an audience, you believe some of the principles that you're spouting. After we got back from VidCon, I went and looked up that guy's name and looked up his YouTube channel. And if you were to look at his YouTube channel, it's got pretty much the same thing he did on stage. And whoever was allowing acts on the main stage that day should have screened them. And just by checking out his channel, you could have anticipated that act. The other person on the program for that act was named Dave McCary. The only context in which I know Dave McCary is as the producer of Epic Rap Battles of History. And when he was on stage, he was mostly just there to stare at Mooney and occasionally make comments on the fact that it was a bad comedy routine. I assume it went more towards the stale comedy routine. People started booing, a few minutes into that set. At that point, it's a clear cue that you need to either change what you're saying or leave the stage. And if the performer himself could not see that the audience needed him to leave the stage, I think it was the duty of his partner to get him to leave it himself. I also assume they had dress rehearsals of some kind, so I'm not sure if they performed a different act during that time, or if they didn't have dress rehearsals at all. Either way, here's to hoping that next year's VidCon will have better screened acts and overall a more welcoming experience for people who choose to attend. This has been Taara. It has been 10 months since my last proper vlog, and this is Several Blind Meast. I know you guys can't tell, but the thing about flip cameras is they don't have the little view thingy, so you can see yourself while filming, which makes filming kind of a hard job if you want to stay on screen, so the way I have this camera oriented right now is so you can actually look in the mirror. This entire side of my room, by the way, is just mirrors, so it makes it a very useful place to keep my tripod.